TotallyRandie here for Houston Style Magazine, speaking to the beautiful ladies of the Godfather of Harlem. Thank you for rocking with Randy.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. So let me dive right into this. Was gonna be for Antoinette first, but I want both of you to answer it. Everyone have heard of Bumpy. Bumpy has a big name. Malcolm has a big name, right? But little is known about you ladies' characters, and I want to know from an actor perspective, an actress perspective, would you like, do you like a clean slate where you can just portray the actor, or would you have rather had a lot of source material to portray your characters?
I think both can be very fun. I think for me, I would approach it differently. I think when you have a lot of information, there's a lot of structure, there's a lot of things you can pull from, there's a lot of things you want to keep. But I think in keeping in mind someone's humanity, there's still things that you get creative license on because you want to make sure that they're a full person and they're not just the fact sheets, right? Like they're not just the list of historical references, that they are a whole human who maybe, sometimes pulls their ear because that's a thing that they do, or, like you want to make sure that you have a full idea of the person. So there's still creative license in that. But I think for Elise, it was really fun because knowing that she comes from this family and knowing like her background and knowing who she is, like just having that as a base and then just getting to build upon that has been very, very fun because there's so many places for her to go. And I think as the seasons keep coming and as we keep writing, she just keeps changing and growing and developing in such beautiful ways, and we have that freedom because her story is not written, we're writing it right now, and that's very fun.
Absolutely. And Ilfenesh, am
Yeah.
I saying your name correctly?
Ilfenesh, yeah, correct.
Hey, see,
Thank you.
very
Um,
important for me to say our names correctly.
I wait is much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah,
so much,
I
sir.
think, like Antoinette, there are obviously benefits to both, to knowing very little or knowing a lot. And with Mamie, there's scarce information about her out there. But I think with freedom and fun, I think where that comes from is having a beautiful guide and a strong guide to go from. So if you're pulling things out of thin air because maybe the writing isn't strong and you've got to make choices about every single word you're saying and how you're saying it and what drives this person, then maybe that's scary and you're kind of floundering around. But if you've got some idea of who this person is, um, and your gatekeeper of the story, who is Chris Brancato, Paul Eckstein, and our writers who are resources every step of the way, you have um, this safety jacket on, right? It's a life jacket, really. That's what they are. They've written these words, and they'll answer your questions, but also give you the freedom to decide, who this woman is. So one without the other is tough, but we've got this perfect marriage of freedom to create on our own, which really, lets you thrive as an artist, and also guidance from our writers and creative team. So it's kind of the perfect just balance of freedom and structure.
Right. I love that. I love how you ladies both put that. We're in 2023, right? But you ladies are playing women from a different time. I look at your character, Antoinette, and how she accepts the date from Omar. Ilfenesh, your character, Mayme, oh my goodness. Like, she is what I like to say, you can't do anything without your ribs, right? But she is that woman. What what is something that you have seen your character do that you possibly as a 2023 woman would have done differently?
Oh gosh. I think there's so many things. I think because the thing is, you try to be honest to the time period. There are things that you just wouldn't do. There are ways you won't move. There are things you don't do when you move through the streets. There's places you don't go by yourself.
Right.
There's just things that you wouldn't do because it wasn't socially something that people did. It's not that you couldn't, you know what I mean? It's just that socially the way we accept the way we move is very different. Um, I find it really hard, and I don't know if it's necessarily time. I don't know if it's 1964 Mamie versus 2023 Ilfenesh that dictates how different behavior it would be. I I think it's more just maybe being someone who
operates a different way than I do. But I don't think, obviously in some ways women of a certain time operate differently, but the 60s we were beginning to be, to be free. We're ushering in the 70s. We're getting closer to, to bra burning and liberation and real feminism. Betty Friedan has written her novel by then. So I think we're kind of casting aside these ideas of like what a woman must be, especially if you're a progressive woman, a well-read woman, a woman with means. So if we go back to like choices that Mayme might have made that I wouldn't, now would I get into the car of some gangster that tried to muscle me in, right? Like, no, 2023 Ilfenesh would be like, scram, like I'm not getting in my car with you. But I'm also, I'm not married to a mob boss in my real life. So maybe if Ilfenesh in 2023 she would have gotten in the car because she was playing this role. Right. It's become increasingly hard to separate the way I would do things from the way Mayme would do things. There are kind of like blurred lines in a weird way, because as actors, we have to understand where these women are coming from without judgment, right? So to step back and say like, I wouldn't have done that becomes for me harder and harder, because I understand why she would do that and why she did do that.
Absolutely. And that led me to my next question was like, she's a part of the civil rights movement, how important that is, but also is married to the biggest gangster, like in Harlem. So what is that conflict with her?
I think if she allows to delve into that conflict, she is very conflicted. And this is maybe the first time that she's been pushed up against a wall and had to take a look at that, because her literal dreams and hopes are being jeopardized because of her husband's dealings. That said, I think the beautiful thing about Mayme is that she is a woman who lives without this need to judge and characterize and categorize people. There's no better lesson in people, the duality of human nature, than living with a man like Bumpy Johnson, right? Like, this guy is a beautiful, intelligent, soulful, helpful leader in his community, pillar in his community. And she's not afraid to remind even Adam Clayton Powell of that, like, but she also is not ignorant to what he does, when the sun sets. So I think it's kind of a lesson in how we could all be in life, to live more without judgment and to be compassionate and understanding. Absolutely. We're a product of our circumstances.
Absolutely. And I know you guys have to go. You guys literally have a lot that you guys have to do. So I have one last question, and I want to read it from a fan. I always try to throw in a fan question because it's important to throw in fan questions. So this comes from at 10 pages at a time. He says, have you guys gotten any pushback from the Nation of Islam for inaccurate portrayals?
Not so far. No, we actually have done a lot of homework and a lot of research and work with former members of the Nation of Islam to make sure that we're not trying to tell a story that is wholly inaccurate. There are creative liberties, there are always creative liberties, but we want to be very respectful of the religion. We always try to be very respectful of the religion. I, in my playing of being a woman in the Nation of Islam, have always tried to be very respectful because I respect people's religions. I think religion is a beautiful thing, and I don't want ever to make it feel like we're doing a caricature or making fun of something, because that is not it. The Nation of Islam is what made Malcolm what he was. There's a beautiful respect to that. And so while we were in the Nation of Islam, there is the drama of how Malcolm came out of it, and that is just factual, written down drama. But that is not to take away from the beauty of the Nation of Islam and all that it did for Black people, especially during the 60s in America, and the liberation that it provided for Black people during that time. It was a really beautiful moment. I even in my research for Elise have all these wonderful, glorious pictures of these women, these Black women dressed in all white, gathering and creating community, and it's such a beautiful thing. So not so far as I know.
But we also stay off the Twitter for the most part.
Yeah,
I think
we have also tried very hard to be extraordinarily respectful to the Nation of Islam.
Love that. I love that. And if you ladies, I know this is my time, but if you ladies want to just end it with the audience, if you want to tell the audience one thing to take away from the show, what would that be? And that's for both of you ladies.
Just the real strength in pride and community, and the power of coming together. And I think, you could be Team Bumpy, you could be Team Italian Mafia, you could be for the Cubans, but you see that everybody is fighting for their piece of the pie, and their own. And I think if you could kind of adopt that and think of us as one human family, and not X fighting Y fighting Z for their piece of the pie, but all of us together as a human race, like you see the divisiveness, right, of everybody fighting for themselves. If you can watch this show and realize that and recognize that and decide the other ways to come together, everybody wins. I think that is maybe not like the entertaining answer to the question. Maybe it's like hippy dippy, but you see what happens when everybody's just fighting for themselves. So be entertained while you're watching it, but know that it's not the way.
Right.
I also think that right now, something that I've just been really stuck on and that I love about a Black anti-hero is that Black people aren't monoliths. That I think there is a real push to present Black people as, especially in the media, and I understand the push and I support it in many ways as great, upstanding, wonderful human beings who have done great things and continue to do great things. And I think that's true. But there's also Black people who do horrible things, and like we're not a monolith. We should be allowed to exist on the full spectrum of our humanity. And I think in the show, throughout all of the characters, you really do get to see the full spectrum of that humanity. And that is a beautiful thing, while also just watching a really fun, great, dramatic, keep you on the edge of your seat drama. All of those things get to happen at once. And I think that's really beautiful about the lead of our show and about all of the characters as they come together.
Thank you, ladies, so much for rocking with Randie. Absolutely pristine acting. I cannot wait to see what you ladies do next.
Thank
you guys.
Thanks
Bye.
again. Bye.
Bye.